Well, awesome to be sitting here today. It's where we wanted to be all way back when. We were hoping that we'd be able to win enough games to play for a league championship, and hats off to our guys. They've battled all year long, and it hadn't been easy, and it never is, even when sometimes it could maybe, certain seasons look easier than others, but it never is. And just really pleased with those guys and how hard they fought, and weird conditions, and still came through. So, anyways.
Fun for you in the snow?
I don't like the cold. So it's never really a lot of fun. And it's, I think just the way that it's interesting watching the tape, because you're watching the tape in the first quarter and a half, and it's a green field, and then all of a sudden, especially when you're watching cut-ups and flipping back and forth between special teams, it's like, did we move states? I mean, in a matter of minutes. And so that was interesting. But I just, I think our guys, they didn't really flinch at all in terms of either side of the ball, and just kept playing.
Chris, given the conditions, how awesome was your tackling in space?
Yeah, good, very good. It's always scary because one slip and a huge play can happen. Sometimes I never know if that's an offense or defense advantage, to tell you the truth, because I know sometimes it's just so hard breaking routes for the receivers to do anything. They really can't plant and get out of things. I think sometimes when you run those crossing routes, that can help an offense on a field like that, and then it's really hard to come to balance and tackle guys. But those guys, defensive guys, tackled well.
You talked about the elements again, and obviously that was a developing story as the game went on. Now that you've gotten a chance to actually look at the tape, what can you tell? Was it different while the game was happening compared to what you saw? Could you see that there was an advantage one way or the other?
Not really. It was obviously interesting because on offense you got two opposite end of spectrum offenses, but it was kind of interesting because they spread you out. We're still prepared, planning and preparing for them to throw the ball, and then they run the ball. Our kind of style in that was to kind of mash in there and try to keep all their movement covered up. And both were, having some success. Again, Miles, he's always going to come down to making a guy or two miss. I thought Savon did a nice job, down the stretch there. He really did. He found some creases and was patient, and so both those guys, ran the ball well, made a couple guys miss.
Looked like over the course of the game, Minshew got really hesitant or was uncertain about throwing the ball down the field. How much of that do you think was condition based, and how much of that was like the first play of the game was the wrap almost pick, and do you think that affected him?
It's hard for me to know on that one. I do think the conditions had as much to do as anything, because we weren't really throwing it down the field either, when it got later into the game, just because of those conditions. So that would be my guess. Guys that throw it that much, one ball that doesn't go the way they want it, that's not going to deter them from reloading. So I think it had to do more with the conditions than anything.
How satisfying was that final drive?
Yeah, awesome. 8 minutes plus. I mean, we were trying to eat some clock, and if we get a first down or two, and the guys just kept making plays. And I think a lot of times it starts with keeping those linemen covered. And again, they're going to pack it in there. The running backs are going to have to do something. Savon and Miles both were able to bounce some things and get some key first downs.
I know when we get a chance to watch you in practice, you see a lot of 4-minute offense. Did you guys ever practice an 8-minute offense?
Not an 8-minute offense. That would probably be the same as your 4-minute offense. And I think there's always, you get into that situation and you're running the ball so much, there's always maybe a run or two you're thinking, man, I wish we had this, but we just hadn't really repped and practiced enough. But we had enough there that kids just executed. But I think that's sometimes you get into. I think those elements were very surprising. I think probably surprised both sides. I mean, we were planning for cold. We were planning for some rain and those type of things. But to get a field like snowy and covered like that, I don't think we were really thinking that maybe till the day of the game, and weren't sure how it would turn out.
You guys had 2 first-half turnovers, but the defense came back and got takeaways on both of those subsequent drives. How big was that just counter-punch early on?
Yeah, huge, really huge. We always talk about when the teams are kind of even, those turnovers are going to be humongous. And, right before half, we felt that kickoff, to come up with that stop, because they obviously had scored and momentum was changing rapidly, so that was really, really big. And, the fourth down stop when the snap was wide and all that. All these little things really add up, and, whoever can handle the conditions makes a big difference.
Extended action for Trey Adams for the first time this season.
Yeah, I think, each week he's getting better, getting himself back into shape, and it's, Jared's, had been so reliable, so healthy, all year, and then he got rolled up on that one, and so it was good that Trey had been getting some work for sure. He's it's nothing long term. I looked at him yesterday, so we'll know a little bit more tomorrow.
On the 80-yard run that kind of went around the left side, did you guys find yourself starting to maybe go a little bit more towards him to see how he could influence the game?
I don't think. Who are you talking about?
Trey.
No. We got a really good tackle on the other side as well. So it's nothing that. It's just hash specific and how we're calling formations and all those type of things. And but it's nice to be able to go over him and not have to think twice about running in certain ways because of personnel.
How have you seen Cade Otton's role grow? He's been playing a lot of fullback almost. He's been spreading out.
Well, our tight ends are hybrids anyways. They're fullbacks, they're H-backs, they're Ys, they're wide receivers, and they're smart kids that are good athletes and can handle a lot of things. And, I think Cade's probably as smart as they come, for a redshirt freshman. He makes very few errors, if any, in terms of assignments and those type of things. He's been awesome all year.
Did anything go wrong on the missed PAT? Was it coverage or blocking? Was it a slip?
Yeah, it's elements again. A little bit of the hold wasn't exactly what it needed to be, and I think in those elements that can, any little thing like that can throw things off.
What do you think your defensive coaching staff and players seem to particularly enjoy playing so well against Washington State in that offense? Yeah,
I don't know. Like I said, I think this game was so different than how we thought, just because, there was just not balls downfield, which is, part of their whole thing. But you don't know that. You still got to defend that. We still hadn't coverage set for that. I think the underneath coverage did a great job, and they do. The majority of their offense is kind of underneath ball control stuff. I think that's one of the things that's relatively deceptive about their offense, is getting it to those backs in space. And so, they still had all that going on, but I think when you take away the explosive part of that offense, any offense, it's going to be a good thing for you.
Looked like when Borgie and Williams had their first touches of the game down the field, they were able to make some guys miss and break a tackle or something. What was it about kind of the details of it that were you guys allowed to basically kind of shut that down?
Well, we'd practiced hard on that thing, those guys, every game, they make guys miss. They made us miss, a couple times. They're really good. Like, that's kind of who they are. That's the strength of their game. And so, but we held up relatively well. It can't be one guy. They really got to run to the ball, and kind of everybody's got to have their leverage, and that's what you saw. They stepped out of us a time or two, but to only have it a time or two with how many balls were going underneath is pretty good.
And to be able to get the pressure that you were able to get with just 3 guys a lot of the time, is there some schematic changes, or is that simply an effort type thing?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of effort. I mean, I really do. Like I said, I thought that O-line for Washington State really did. I mean, obviously, game whatever it was, and their stats, not giving up sacks, and you look at them on tape, I mean, they're really stout, and that meant you can move around and buy time, and that's part of his game is a little bit of scrambling. And so for our guys to get him off the spot and sack him a couple times, I mean, that was as important as anything. And they rushed hard. You know, that's what it was.
I know you talked about Joe and kind of his ascension a little bit and how he's developing. Was that kind of the natural byproduct? Did you expect him to kind of impact the game the way that he did based on his ramp up?
Yeah, I don't know if I should say I expected it, but he's been doing better and better every week. You playing a really good team, you never know how that's going to go. But it was nice to see him show up. It's just kind of what he's done every week, and it's exciting.
You've had Hunter Bryant back for a few games now. What have you seen from him as far as progress, maybe just getting back into a rhythm?
Yeah, he's just a playmaker, you know. Yeah, that first one, that kind of long one he got, I'm not sure exactly who that ball was going to. But if it's in Hunter's area, I know Hunter thinks it's his, and so he took it and did a nice job running away with it. But yeah, Hunter's as sure-handed as they come, and he's just a unique, explosive athlete. That's really what he is. Yeah, he's not a super tall receiver. He's not a big tight end, but he can kind of he's just got this uniqueness to him that he's just a playmaker. He's a football player.
When you look at the double pass 2 years ago and then the one on Friday, is there something schematically that you see, or is it the time and the situation that makes it effective?
I think it's more of that. You know, we've used that play for a while now, and for the most part, it's been pretty effective. And I think it was the first thing you talked about. And you keep your fingers crossed. They gotta give you the right looks. Got to be the right timing and all that. I thought Bush did a great job of calling that, because that was all him, and he had that one in his back pocket, and it kind of even surprised me, thinking, okay, are they going to line up right? And they did.
What is it about, excuse me, about that play in particular that you guys have liked so much over the years? I mean,
I like a lot of them. I don't care how they get done, but that one's just been effective. I mean, it's I think we stole it from Colorado State way back in the day, and I think they got our defense on a couple times, and we worked on it a bunch, and it's like, are you kidding me? I mean, do we not show you that? So when you're working on it, still works, you probably got something good going.
What's the requirement of the receiver? Does he just make sure he has to throw a spiral? And
Grip it and rip it. It wasn't a spiral, and it wasn't pretty, but it was good enough.
Did you talk to anyone about that throw at all?
Say, great job. You got it to him.
Do you guys have tryouts for those receivers?
They think they do. We kind of do. There's usually a couple guys that surface, and they're excited when they get a chance to do it, for sure.
You obviously practice it, but is there a pride among the receivers?
Oh yeah. And we got a couple guys that can throw, so they're always kind of lobbying for who it's going to be.
Best receivers.
I mean, I don't know if there's the best receivers in terms of throwing. I think Dante's done, because a couple times he's tucked the ball on different type of stuff. And sometimes things are happening fast and guys just want to chuck it up there and just hope. And he wouldn't do that. He would cut our losses and get 2 or 3 yards or even no yards, which to me is impressive as just throwing the ball.
On Jake's interception in the end zone, did he just not see the safety?
Well, yes, he did not. But also the receiver's got to help him out. The receiver's floating and drifting and needs to sit in that zone. So, yeah.
Hey, Coach, how different is Utah going to be this time around?
Utah. Yeah. Well, there's no question, from watching, all the teams in the league, most of them, the 2 we didn't play, we haven't really studied, but, you put them back on right now, and you're like, not surprising that we're playing those guys. They've gotten better. That's what we always say. You don't stay the same. You're either trending up or you're trending down. There's nobody that just stays the same. I don't believe in that, is how this thing goes. And they've gotten better.
How different will it be though playing their backup quarterback that you guys didn't face the last?
He's very similar. He's very similar. I think they're in a good groove on offense. They really kind of know what they want to do. They haven't really had to change much without their starter, and they like to run the ball, and they'll run their quarterback, keep you honest, and try to get the ball to Covey as much as possible. But they know what they want to do, and their defense is lights out. I mean, they're top defense one of the top defenses in the country, tops in the league, and I think it's always interesting when you play in big bowl games or league championships where the defense is kind of always right there, and you're looking at that going, that's why.
Last time you went to the Pac-12 championship game, you were playing a team that wasn't on the season slate. Does that change? Does it make it better or worse when you have that tape? Give you more to think about, too much to think about?
I don't. Yeah, that's a good question. I know that our guys have tremendous respect for Utah playing them the first time. I mean, we knew that was a good football team. And they'll watch the tape and see this is even a better, in some ways a better Utah team. They've stayed really healthy on defense. Have some couple guys in there that are playing more than we played them the first time. They're playing at a really, really high level.
We talked after that game in Salt Lake City how physical that was. That was kind of the one thing that jumped out. I guess, how do you prepare for that in a week like this? And both teams like to bring it that way.
Yeah, you better get your mind right. I mean, our guys know it's going to be like that. You watch them play last night. I mean, they don't give you anything. A lot of man coverage and pack the box, and they are extremely active and aggressive, and they get off blocks. They don't stay blocked. They just have really good players across the board. There's not, sometimes this time of year with injuries and those type of things, we'll have new guys, but they've stayed healthy. So that's out. And like I said, there's a couple more guys, linebacker, D lineman, one of the linebackers we didn't see the first time we played them. And so they're, to me, a better team on defense than we saw the first time.
Linebacker for you guys, we haven't talked a whole lot about this year. Brandon Wellington coming back, a lot of snaps Saturday.
Yeah.
What have you seen out of him?
Yep. He's an athletic guy, and that's what you like about him out there. He can really run. And he's a little bit in Bamber Curve and mold. They're not the biggest guys, but they're active and athletic and aggressive. And he's another guy kind of like Joe Tryon. Like every game, he's been getting better and better and getting more comfortable. And, missing time and all that kind of stuff takes a minute, and he's doing a great job.
Going into the game in September, we talked quite a bit about how Utah and Washington have just played these nail-biter games. And I know that, you won by 2 touchdowns last time, but it's still a series that over the last 3 years has been just down to the wire, nip and tuck. Can you talk about the matchup between the two?
Yeah, I expect a similar situation. I mean, I think always, like, when you start with defenses, they're going to keep things close for both sides, and then it will be an interesting matchup. I mean, our guys are going to have to play the best game of the season, which is kind of how you want it late. That's what we've kind of talked about. I mean, you go into a championship game, and I think it's interesting for us because the Wazoo thing was going to be a big game, and they were playing so well, and so there's, having to play our best ball, and then we go into this next game and have to play another step, and then, depending on the bowl game, those matchups are usually pretty tough. So I just think it comes back to us playing the best we can possibly play. I mean, the kids will know what they're in for in terms of having experienced them one time, and then watching the tape, they're going to be like, okay, better be at our best.
When it comes to the mechanics of dealing with this week, how much do you rely on 2016? Because obviously you went to Pullman, you
Yeah.
played that game, then you immediately had the quick turnaround, same place and all that.
It's just a normal week for us, really. So today's just a Monday. So it's kind of their recovery day, and then tomorrow we'll practice and away we go. So we just shift the days, and so it just kind of, we try to keep things as normal as we can for them. And yeah, I don't think it's much different. I forgot we'd even played over there 2 years ago to go to this game. So, I mean, we're in and out so fast when we travel on the road that it doesn't, it's a normal prep week in terms of how we do it.
And going back to that prep week in two years ago, I know you guys pride yourselves on trying to keep a level keel and just try to, have not a high or a low, but when you're playing for a championship, do you sense that there's more of a sense of urgency?
Gosh, I hope so. I really do. We played two really emotional games, in terms of the last game that the seniors play here and then going over to Wazoo and now a third one, so you'd hope they're going to be emotional in a good way and all those type of things because it needs to be against these guys.
Is the messaging for you guys change at all because of that and how you guys approach it as a staff?
I don't think, if we got to get these guys fired up for this, we're kind of missing something. I think they'll do a good job prepping and be ready to go.
You mentioned playing the best that you had all season. Do you see that happening here down the stretch of the season in these last few games?
Yeah, I think we've made strides. I do. I think you can see some individual guys play better, and I think there's been some good football, and I think we're making progress.
How much of a motivating factor is it for a Pac-12 team to have a chance to play in the Rose Bowl?
Well, I think I think everybody wants to do that for sure. If you're not going to the playoffs, and we kind of talked about this, I think last week or the week before. Everybody's, very much dialed into the Rose Bowl. Especially with the history of this conference and the Rose Bowls, that it's be an awesome game to be able to go to.
Did you guys talk about it at all?
I don't think so. Hopefully this week, I would think there would be, but so many things got to happen, It's just 1 week at a time. I think you guys are all seeing what's happening in college football. Everybody's got all these teams, and these teams get knocked off. That's it. You can't. This is when we start this thing at the starting of the year. It's like, stop talking about all that expectation. That's it, because it comes down to these last couple weeks. It always does, and things are taken away, and you got to be able to finish.
Chris, we've talked about the difference between watching just game tape and then watching a game live. I don't know if you saw Utah BYU live, but did you have any takeaways from a 20-point comeback like they had last night, dramatic game?
I knew they'd make a run. I saw some of the game because I knew I'd watch it all, coaches' tapes. That team's too good. I knew they'd make a run, and they did. And I'm not sure if that's good or bad for us, but I knew they'd make a run, and they came storming back. They scored a lot of points in a hurry.
Good.